She was shot during an armed robbery. The search is on. Maybe you can help to find the person that helped save her life. Plus, unbelievable trauma and violence in a physically abusive relationship. She's here to tell her story, how she built her life afterwards, including being the CEO of one of the largest rooms on the Clubhouse drop-in audio chat app, Breakfast with Champions. Welcome to the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. In the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show, we are joined by special guests talking about their experiences, the realities of investigating crimes, plus those who have experienced horrendous trauma. Police, first responders, military, and victims of crime share their stories. Hi, I'm John J. Wiley. In addition to being a broadcaster, I'm also a retired police sergeant. Be sure to check out our website, letradio.com, and also like us on Facebook. Search for the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. If you want to be a guest on the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show, simply contact us. It couldn't be easier. You can send us a message on Facebook. Look for and like the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show page, or email jay@letradio.com. That's Jay @letradio.com. Contacting us from the west coast of Florida, the Tampa, Florida area. Actually, it's a little further away from that. We have Marylynn Wilkin on the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. Marylynn, thanks for being a guest on the show and telling your story. Both very much appreciated.
Well, thank you, John. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to share.
And by the way, I met Marylynn Wilkin in the Clubhouse drop-in audio chat app in a room she runs called Breakfast with Champions. This is free. You can get involved. You can open up your microphone on your phone. You can contribute. It's great. And we always say this: everyone gets a seat at the table at Breakfast with Champions. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, everybody gets a seat at the table. That's really our motto, and it comes from getting around those who are doing the things that you like to do. It's a life hack. If you're an entrepreneur, getting around entrepreneurs. If you're a single mom, getting around single moms. If you're in a relationship, we talk relationships. So it's really everybody gets a seat at the table, getting around those who are doing the things you'd like to do and connecting and building community. And
that runs, I believe, at 5 a.m. Eastern time until approximately 9 a.m. Monday through Friday. Then you got rooms going on Saturday and Sunday, and you also have rooms going on the rest of the day as well, right?
Yes. We are those crazy people up at 5 a.m.
You're the crazy person up at 5 a.m. I'm not getting in there like 6:15-ish.
Right. 5 a.m. to 9 in the morning. We have some afternoon programming, evening programs, Saturdays, Sundays. We're pretty much there all day, every day for your listening pleasure.
And one of the things I like about Marylynn, and we'll get into your story after that, is that you can rub shoulders and talk with people from all over the world, literally all over the world at that time frame, and still have bedhead, not even be ready for work, or not even. I'm in there most of the time looking like I just crawled out of bed because that's what I did.
Me too. I often think, I should really get dressed to do the show, and then I think, why? My hair is in a messy bun. I don't have makeup on. My clothes are generally mismatched, but it's the power of the voice. And so, it definitely, I rub shoulders with some of the biggest names and some of the most awesome people. We have people from Egypt to, America. It doesn't matter who. And we do it from the comfort of our home, which to me
the great thing about it. I have a cup of coffee. I go to my phone, and what you got to do is you got to download the Clubhouse drop-in audio chat app. It's free, by the way, and join Breakfast with Champions. It's free. You'll get notifications. I do a room every Monday about 6:30 a.m. Eastern time, mostly about personal development, personal growth, all that stuff. Marylynn, we're going to transition. Let's talk a little bit about your story because you've got a fascinating story. And when I say fascinating, we've had people on that have lived charmed lives that nothing bad's happened to, and they make great stuff out of it. We have people that went through absolute you-know-what and make great stuff out of their lives. I always say this. It's not the first half of your life that matters. It's how you end the race. It's how the last half of your life that really matters. Does that apply to you?
Oh, absolutely. I am 55, and I feel like, I've only lived half a life. The first half was a little messy. The second half, it is all about the end goals, the glory of knowing who I am and finding my way. So definitely took me a while, but I'm there.
You're there, and that's one of the things I really like about Marylynn. As a matter of fact, I had to pull some serious teeth. You'd think I was a dentist trying to get her to do this show. I'm like, you've got some great stories. How many people do we know that survived being shot at a restaurant where they worked, and then they have a mysterious stranger, which we can't locate, which we'll talk about in a few moments, that you could probably help her find this person, help save her life. How many people you know do that? How many people you know that have been through horrendous relationships with domestic violence and survived that to build their lives afterwards? The answer usually is we don't know a lot of people like that, but people like that do exist, and we see them all the time in the grocery line checkout. We see them at the store checkout, and we may not know that the person right next to us has gone through all kinds of you-know-what.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things with my heart. I feel like we should be kind to everybody because we don't know their story. Should I go into my
look, you can start your story anytime you want. Here I was a waitress at was it TGI Fridays, Applebee's? What was it? Applebee's. Where everybody, everybody's welcome in the neighborhood kind of place. And
right.
All of a sudden the guy walks in and shoots you.
Yes, I know. And that's the irony. It wasn't like a seedy place in a bad neighborhood. No. Main drag, Main Street, USA, Applebee's, neighborhood, bar and grill, working on the weekends, going to USF, single mom. I had a day job at Raymond James, like typical American life, and just one day looked up and the guy said, "Give me all your money." I said, "I don't have any money." And he pulled a gun. I thought it was a joke. I thought it was the guy from the kitchen until I looked down and realized I had been shot. A couple other people suffered some injuries also. The manager told me I had to get up and run out and get us help. I'm like, but wait, I've been shot. And he's like, well, me too. So I'm like, well, I'm getting out and I'm running and I'm getting help. On a shot leg, go out onto the main street, wave down some help. And that is where the hero steps in and saves me. And I've never been able to find him since.
We'll go into that a little bit. I got to backtrack. You're sitting there, you're doing your job, and you think you guys playing a prank on you, a joke, and, oh, I've been shot. It's like, oh, by the way, I changed the channel on television yesterday, and you didn't notice. You didn't. Oh, I just been shot. You glossed over that totally.
Well, I didn't realize. I honestly had to look down. The guy comes out of the kitchen. I think he's a cook. He says, "Give me all your money." I'm like, ha, yeah, right. And he goes, "No, really." I turn, he shoots, I see fire come out of a barrel. And I didn't feel anything, which is, you hear about those things. And I literally thought to myself, I think I've been shot. And later finding out, it nicked my femoral artery, went in my upper thigh and out the other side of my leg. So I think, okay, let me just sit down and collect my thoughts. And that's when I really kind of sussed out the situation and realized what had happened. But I think the adrenaline, your brain can't process the situation if you've never been in it. So it was like it took some processing, let's put it that way.
And then we turned the conversation. We're going to talk about having a conversation with a coworker about, no, you go get help. No, you go. I've been shot too, which is mind-blowing. And then we'll talk about how you can help us find the person to help save her life. There's much more. You listen to Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. And by the way, check out our website, thebwcinfo.com. That's thebwcinfo.com. And if you're on the Clubhouse drop-in audio chat app, be sure to look for me and follow me. My name's John, the letter J, Wiley, W-I-L-E-Y. You can also search for @LET Radio Show. That's John J. Wiley, W-I-L-E-Y, @LET Radio Show on the Clubhouse drop-in audio chat app. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. One of the questions I get all the time is, how can I show my support for law enforcement? We're all busy. We've got busy lives, but there's something oh so simple you can do with our Facebook page. Search for Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show Facebook page. And when you see a post you agree with that resonates with you, share it, especially episodes of the podcast. To do all that, just search for us on Facebook, look for Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show, and be sure to click like. Returning our conversation with Marylynn Wilkin on the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. She was shot in an armed robbery when she was working. Other people were shot as well. She ran out to get help, which we'll talk about in a few moments. And a person helped save her life. They don't know who that is. They're still trying to track that person down. It's been a long time. She survived horrible domestic violence, and she's built a life for herself that includes being the CEO of Breakfast with Champions, one of the largest rooms. I think it was the morning talk radio show on the Clubhouse drop-in audio chat app. Be sure to download it, get it today, join Breakfast with Champions, and join us there. Website is thebwcinfo.com. That's THEBWCinfo.com. Marylynn, before winter break, we talked about, okay, you're in a robbery, you're not really sure what's going on, the adrenaline's flowing, and then you realized you've been shot. How could you tell at that point how bad the injuries were?
I couldn't. I really couldn't. Still, I see some blood, but nothing's processing. The manager I was behind the bar. He was on the other side of the bar doing some stuff on the register. The guy turns and shoots him in the knee, and he goes down, and he's about 6'4". He's a big guy. And then he disappears into the back of the restaurant. The manager says to me, "You need to run out and go get some help." And I'm like, "I can't. I've been shot. I'll pick up the phone and call 911. He's like, "No, go out and get help." I was so afraid to run towards the place that the shooter had come out, but I felt like it was do or die, literally. So I get up, I run out, realizing there's also people in the back now who have been either shot or taken hostage. I'm not really sure. It's a confusing scene. I round the corner, and as I round the corner, I'm still super afraid this guy's going to come out and shoot me in the back. So it was the hardest thing, probably the biggest fear I've had to face. I get outside of the restaurant, I stop and I look and I lock eyes with like the only car on the road. And I say, "Help, I've been shot." And I hear him say back to me, "Yes, I've been shot." He says, "Okay." I know at that point things are going to be okay, that somebody is coming to help me. I sit down on the grass, and he comes over to help me and says, "I'm an off-duty paramedic from D.C. I can help you."
First
and
clue.
That's the last I remember.
Clue. He was a paramedic from Washington, D.C.
Yes.
Okay. So he began to help you. He began to treat your wounds. And you said you had a nicked femoral artery. People can bleed out. They can bleed to death in like 8 minutes with the femoral artery when it's wiped out.
I am literally alive by millimeters because it was the branch of the artery, and it just nicked. I mean, if I had turned one hair different, we wouldn't be talking. It's
That's
amazing.
the amazing part about it. I'm not trying to sound corny, but I never would have married Lynn if she'd moved 1 millimeter to the left or right. There's chances are I never would have met her. We wouldn't be having this conversation. Any friendship we developed after that would never have occurred because you wouldn't be here.
It is mind-blowing to think of how in an instance some people have not been so lucky, and how just by the grace of God, whatever you believe in, you are literally here by millimeter.
I sometimes think about that, Marylynn, and not to detract from your story, which we'll get back to in a moment. Many people I worked with in the police department, Baltimore Police Department, did not survive, or they survived with horrific injuries. They're in wheelchairs. I have my own injuries. I'm physically disabled, but I used to think, why me, not and why not them? And then at first it was like, because I'm really good at what I do, or I got the grace of God. And then I realized there's no reason why. Sometimes it just is. I don't know why. Some of them were better police than I was, and they still didn't make it. And I don't have the answers why, but I know this. My job now is to live the fullest life possible. You kind of feel the same way?
You know, John, I'm going to be 1,000% honest. I do now. In that time through the healing, it didn't change my life immediately. I went back to I was young. I was much younger then. I went back to some habits I always had in the back of my mind. I was thankful to be here, and things could have been different. But it took me a few years of some personal development and some growth to get to that point. It wasn't like, oh, the angels came down and sang, and my life has changed. I had to heal, and I did a lot of personal growth. And now, yes, I absolutely feel I live a life I don't even recognize compared to the girl I was.
That's good. You said, how old were you when you got shot?
I was 28. No, 29.
By the
29.
way, Marylynn is still very young. I call her a pup. She's much, much younger than me. But 29, I couldn't imagine being 55. I certainly couldn't imagine being 60 or 65 at that age. And I really thought I had it going on. Truth is, I really did not know. How about you?
I did not. I was a single mom. I had, not the personal coping skills. I ran on anxiety and Diet Coke, 2 jobs. I was in survival mode on many levels, not just the shooting, but financially, personal growth-wise, being a single mom, survival mode. Now, I had to take a pause and realize that life wasn't working for me and do some personal growth. And here at 55, I'm a much, much different person. But it really started about 40.
Gotcha. And I'm not saying this to be judgy, but were you kind of a wild child at that age?
Yes. So
you say so
no
matter of factly. Yes, I was. Let's move on.
I was. Exactly. There is no judgment there. It was just a fact. I loved to go out dancing, loved to have a good time. I just was a little bit more of a wild child, yes.
When you got shot and you did the physical rehabilitation and physical recovery and all that stuff, and we'll try to track down this paramedic to help save your life in a moment. Is it fair to say at that point you really didn't, hey, I've been shot, I'm bulletproof, I'll continue on, I'm going out dancing at 2 o'clock in the morning, go to work tomorrow?
Absolutely. I couldn't wait to go dancing again. I would not close the restaurant, but I went back to bartending, and eventually even that wore off. I ended up working at a martini bar, late hours. So that impact that it had as I returned to a little more of my wild child life and those work hours and late nights, I think some of that impact had worn off.
And my wife, I call her the boss. I've met years after retiring from police work. She used to be a bartender for many, many years, and she's like, I could never do it now. But and when we return from break, we're going to talk a little bit about one of the guests we had on Breakfast with Champions says something very profound, and I'm going to say it again. I'm going to paraphrase it. Embrace your past. That's part of who you are. Doesn't mean you will be that way the rest of your life. It just means it explains part of your journey. This is the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. We're joined by Marylynn Wilkin. She was shot during a commercial armed robbery. She survived tremendous violence in domestic violence situations we'll talk about in a few moments. And she's rebuilt a life that she wants. And she's head of one of the biggest rooms in the Clubhouse drop-in social audio chat app called Breakfast with Champions. Be sure to check it out. We'll talk more about that again in a few moments. The website is the bwcinfo.com. This is the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Remember when news was free? Be sure to check out the Newsbreak app. It's free. And be sure to follow the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show and podcast on the Newsbreak app. Newsbreak is your #1 local news app for current events. Free live news for you and your community. Download the Newsbreak app today for free. And be sure to follow the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show and podcast on the Newsbreak app. That's the free Newsbreak app. Be sure to look for and follow the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show and podcast. Back to our conversation with Marylynn Wilkin on the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. Marylynn, man, what a great story. She survived being shot in an armed robbery. Oh, but wait, there's more. We're searching for the off-duty paramedic from Washington, D.C. that was visiting Tampa area that helped save her life. We'll talk about that. She survived tremendous domestic violence. She rebuilt her life. She is the CEO and owner of Breakfast with Champions, which is one of the largest rooms on the Clubhouse drop-in audio, social audio app. Download it on your phone today and join us at Breakfast with Champions. And our website is the bwcinfo.com. Now, earlier you talked about being shot like it was nothing, but it's just part of my story. It's not a big deal. I'm over it now. But then you kind of said, you locked eyes with someone in a car and said, I need help. I've been shot. And they're like, you're going to be okay. And was that the person that helped save your life?
Absolutely. The strangest thing that will ever come out of your mouth is, I've been shot. It still is surreal, but it was 2:30 in the morning, St. Petersburg, Florida, 4th Street North, and a gentleman drove by. The window was down. I can't remember the car or anything. My vision was starting to kind of turn into a negative, as I'm sure I was losing blood, but not aware. I just remember locking eyes and saying those strange words. I've been shot. He said it back to me. You've been shot. I said, yes. I finished crossing the street, ended up on the other side of the road next to a newspaper box. And that's when I just kind of laid down. I knew he was coming to help me. He said, I'm an off-duty paramedic from D.C. I just knew I was in good hands. He applied pressure. I do know that much. My mother being an ER nurse, I knew not to get too wound up. I stayed as conscious as I could. I remember saying, do whatever you have to do. I have a son. And I just felt safe. Once he was with me, I knew I was going to be okay. I felt like he was a guardian angel.
Can you describe what he looked like? You've been trying to find this guy for quite, I say guy, it could be a male or a woman, but was it male?
It was a man.
Okay.
And I have one hint that may help. I believe he was black. Again, my vision was starting to go. It was pitch black at night. I was starting to see things like in a negative, like if you were to develop a negative picture from the old days. So I believe he was black. I was starting to lose a little, mental faculties there. But several years down the road, a dispatcher from the DMV area, the mother of one of my son's friends said, I remember a guy came back and told me that story, but I don't know where he is now. So her name is Susan Harding. She was in the DMV area. She was a dispatcher. She remembers hearing this story, and this was 1998. So he came back to the area and told somebody about this that I later ran into in Florida about 5 years later.
Isn't that crazy?
I know he's out there, yeah.
Well, here's part of the thing that I don't think, I'm going to tell you this, from my years of policing, nothing felt better than meeting someone afterwards and, hey, you helped save my life, or you helped turn my life around. I got sober, I went to jail, and I cleaned my life up, whatever it might be. We want to see people do well. But when you save someone's life, that's an extra special touch, because a lot of times we don't know. By the time the paramedics, the AMBO crew gets there, they get rushed off to the hospital, we don't know. Especially this guy being on vacation, he probably doesn't know whether you survived or not.
Well, do you know that he went back to the restaurant the next day and checked on me, found out I had survived, and disappeared.
Get out.
No, and the restaurant was even closed that day because they had to clean up, but I guess he went up to the door and talked to somebody and checked on me and found out I was okay and didn't leave a name or number or anything.
Hopefully someone can help us connect this. And what we'll do is this, if you know who this person is, just have them contact me, and I'll arrange for an introduction with Marylynn, and they can reunite, because this person did a great thing. A lot of things are policing, and I'm saying policing, paramedics, whatever, first responders. you do the things because you rely on your training and you get all amped up, but you kind of lose focus of all the external stuff and you focus on the task at hand, which was saving your life. He thought enough to go check on you the next day, found out you're okay, and then disappeared, went on with his life. And we'd love for you to connect. If you had a chance right now to talk with him, what would you say?
I would say, first I would ask him if he's an angel. I think I would say, what were you doing on 4th Street and how did you see me? Because he was the only car, or maybe that's my perception, and how did he lock eyes with me? Because I was still off to the side of the road. That road speed limit is 45 miles per hour. So I would be curious, how did he see me? Why was he in St. Petersburg, and how did he happen to notice me on that busy road? Because I feel like there are no coincidences there. Did he, did he have a nudge to turn his head? I just am always wondered that.
I don't have the answer to that, but if he was not there, there's a good chance you would not survive. And there's a good chance that your son at that point would have grown up without, not a single mom. He'd had no parents.
Yeah, I kept saying, I have a son to stay alive for. I don't care what you do, whatever you need to do, just keep me alive. I have a son. I have a son. I have a son.
This is a part of Marylynn we never get to talk about. This is part of her story. I'm glad you're sharing that with us because you are not that person today. But you also went through a lot of, I hate to use, it's overused, a lot of drama, a lot of trauma, a lot of physical violence. And we'll get into the reasons why in a few moments. There was one incident that you can talk about?
Well, I was with an abusive man, and I mean, there were several incidences, but I think one of that just really would give an example of what I went through. I was out with friends at just a nice little restaurant on the water. Here I am in St. Petersburg, Florida, called Whiskey Joe's, and just having a good time with my friends, and in comes the boyfriend after he got off work and dragged me out of the restaurant, kicking and screaming, because at this time I knew I was trying to leave, by my hair. Nobody stopped him. I threw me into an open convertible, which was a Corvette. His boss was driving. So why this man allowed this also, I don't know. Every time we came to a stoplight, he would turn around and just punch me. And finally, I kind of jumped out and got to a friend's house. Believe it or not, I don't know how that happened because I was in like flight or fight mode.
Was there any secret guardian angels involved in this?
There just has to be, because I have survived a lot of physical things, and here I am. And so I think that one, that just gives you a kind of an idea of some of the things that, one example of something I suffered through, but here I am to share my story. And
the amazing thing about this is, and you said it a couple times, is you said no one did anything. No one said anything. No one got involved. Thank God the off-duty paramedic from D.C. did, because you wouldn't be alive here to tell your story on the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. We're talking with Marylynn Wilkin, and remember, her website is thebwcinfo.com. That's thebwcinfo.com. That's for Breakfast of Champions, probably the largest morning-style radio show on your phone using a free app from the Clubhouse social audio app. Check it out. That's thebwcinfo.com. You can find us on Facebook. Look for and like the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show Facebook page. We'll be right back.
Breakfast with Champions is the tool I use in the morning to get myself ready to face the world. There is so much negativity as you move about your day, from traffic to politics. The conversations are motivating and inspiring, and I can face the world with a positive attitude. So join us in the Breakfast with Champions rooms. Download the Clubhouse app today for free and join us soon. Online at www.thebwcinfo.com. Return conversation with Marylynn Wilkin on the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show.
Marylynn survived being shot in an armed robbery at a restaurant, barely. She had a mysterious stranger who's an off-duty paramedic from Washington, D.C., save her life. We don't know who that person is. We're trying desperately to try to find that person and reunite them. So just contact me, and I'll do the introductions if it's you or if you know someone that it might be. She also survived horribly violent domestic abuse situations, which we'll talk about more in a few moments. She is the CEO of Breakfast with Champions, which is, I'd say, the largest program on the Clubhouse social audio app, which you can download for free. And on your phone, you can participate. Everybody gets to see the table. It's a great place. You can rub shoulders with people all across the globe. It doesn't matter what you look like. And you do it from the comfort of your home, rolling out of bed like I do, or in your car on your way to work. That's Breakfast with Champions website. It's the bwcinfo.com. Now, I've known Marylynn for a long time on the Clubhouse app, on Breakfast with Champions. And there's something I'd ask you, pointed. You did it several times in your interview, and you do it quite often. You almost have like a nervous laughter. Is that a tool you use to, certain things I do to keep people at distance? Is that a tool you use to soften the blow of what you've been through?
I think so. I think I do believe laughter is the best medicine. It's good for the nervous system. And really, I embrace my past like we were talking about. None of this stuff sits heavy with me anymore. Yes, there's serious situations, but I don't embody them in a heavy way anymore. So I think the laughter may be a little bit of nervous, a little bit of just wow, almost can't believe I went through some of these things kind of.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't sit in my nervous system, and it is a little bit of a coping mechanism. Humor does lighten the soul.
I use humor a bit to keep people at a distance. And it's like if you're entertaining them, they can't hurt you. I know it's an oversimplified version of saying it. Sometimes I do it that way. Sometimes I use anger to keep people away. But it's always a defense mechanism that I've used over the years, and I'm trying to get away from that. Are you trying to get away from accepting your past as part of you? Great, I get that. But are you trying to, I know you are, trying to build a different life today?
For sure. Humor, being a class clown or using humor in a disparaging, negative defense mechanism, any other way, I would have done that many, many years ago as an insecurity tool, right? To like a defense mechanism because of insecurities. But I just realized one day, like, this is not the life I want to lead. And I dove deep into personal growth. And I do want to say one of the things when I went through the domestic violence, I always draw back on that the judge was like, you are one of the youngest women to have ever come and not only filed the restraining order, but to follow up the second time. With the shooting, I was a survivor in the sense of things could have been so much differently, and I healed. I don't even have a scar. So now when I look back at those things, they empower me. When I wanted to make a change, I knew I was strong. I knew that physically I could heal, but it was time for some emotional healing. And that's when I dove into the personal development. And now humor really, I still have a little bit of a guard up around my heart, but when I'm laughing, it's joyful. It is, sometimes the laughter is in disbelief of some of the things I've been through, but it never comes from a space where, look at me, I'm acting out, I'm funny, because now you don't have to see the real me.
Right. I get that wholeheartedly. And I think you're spot on with your description of how you use that. Last question before we get into what you're doing today. You've said many times before, and also in this interview, that you're a single mom. How is your son, and how old is he?
Well, my son is amazing. The absolute I think most moms feel this way, the love of my life. He is amazing. I am proud. He is successful. He is well-rounded. He is just a phenomenally well-adjusted child. I was a single mom, yes. his dad is in his life, but I did raise him as a single mom, and I'm very proud of what I was able to pour into him and the man he is today.
Good for you. And I look forward to meeting him. And we did talk. Marylynn and I are friends, so we've talked multiple times. And I did tell her yesterday, as a matter of fact, I think he's the kind of guy I would like, and I'd like to get to meet him. And you've done a great job. You've done a great job telling your story, too, by the way. I really want to do the deep dive, because here we go from a person who's been shot, has been in all kinds of abusive relationships, and was a wild child, and did all that stuff, a single mom. Now you're like taking a deep dive in the deep end of the pool with Breakfast with Champions and the Clubhouse drop-in audio chat app, which, by the way, you can download. It's free. Both are free. And join us every weekday morning. What possessed you to take on this task?
It didn't happen overnight. Like I said, about 40. I think that's a common age for women. About 40, I just knew life had to be different. I started with books like Brene Brown, The Four Agreements, self-help, deep dive, get to know myself, self-help, church, counseling, friends, coaching, all the things. And then about 10 years later, I said, I'm done crying. I'm done. We're always healing, but I'm good. I'm in a good space now. Now I need to find some tools for everyday life, practical tools, tactical tools, things I can use to move my career forward. So I went from the deep dive of personal growth into practical tools, and one of them was Breakfast with Champions. I use Breakfast with Champions as a tool in my life to fill my nervous system with positivity, tools I can use in career, tools I can use in personal development, tools I can use in relationships. It's a positive space before I go out into the world, which sometimes is not so bright and shiny. And my nervous system needs that after everything I've been through. So now I share my story. I try and be transparent as possible to help anybody else who may have been where I was. There's days where I couldn't get out of bed. Now I can't wait to get out of bed. There were days I didn't think I'd ever feel normal, and I feel amazing. So it's really a tool for me. It's a lifestyle, if you will, even. And I think it's important to be transparent, to share my story. A lot of people like to, maybe puff up their chest or are afraid to show that not so shiny part because it might not make them look so strong. But I feel like those who have been to battle, who have the chinks in the armor, who show up every day and then share, those are the real warriors. And I hope to help people.
I agree with you 100%. I tell people that I've got 2 steel plates on my right hand and wrist and surgical scars from them being put in. And the steel plates are my combat medals from policing, and the scars are my street tattoos. And so not everybody has earned the right to hear that. Not everybody's earned the right to hear the stories that I talk about. But they're all part of who I am. And I think you have really done a great job of embracing who you are. And part of that is your past. It doesn't define your future, but it certainly is part of you.
Yeah, and without those stories, without people's stories, everybody's stories, without sharing those, it would be a really dull world.
It sure would.
Yes, some of them are traumatic. Some of them are, I don't think anybody escapes adversity in their life. So when we can share and talk about it, I know people have messaged me and said, thank you for talking about that. Me too. The outreach after I share something is definitely part of the reward.
Now, you can get more information from Marylynn, what she's doing on her website, thebwcinfo.com. That's thebwcinfo.com. And the easiest way to join her, join myself, join Julie, cousin Julie, a bunch of other people, is in the Breakfast with Champions rooms in the Clubhouse social audio chat app, which is free. Download it on your phone today. Marylynn, thanks for being guest on the show and telling your story. Both very much appreciated.
Thank you. It's truly an honor to share. I hope to make a connection and find our guy, but if not, just letting other people hear that you too can overcome is good for me.
A huge thank you for listening to this episode of the podcast version of the Law Enforcement Talk radio show, by the way, which is a nationally syndicated radio show. And we broadcast on over 115 radio stations across the United States to more than 44 million combined population. If you like our show, there's two simple things you can do. Go to our website, letradio.com. Add your favorites. Check it often. You can find episodes of the show right there. And the second one involves our Facebook page. It's so easy to find great content, including past episodes of the show. And when you see something that you like, that resonates with you, be sure to share it with your friends. We'll be back in just a few days, another episode of the Law Enforcement Talk radio show and podcast. Until then, this is John J. Wiley. See ya.